Hello everyone, as always it's me, Professor Harding, bringing you some more information about how things are going. Um, Year 2, or I suppose the end of year 1, we've managed to survive for 13 months now, to various degrees, which is exceptional. Uh, it seems the previous month's upswing in everything has continued this month. Um, the magpies, who have been relatively quiet recently, have been showing up a lot more in much better spirits. I'm sure some of you who have been interacting with them may have noticed that they have been somewhat curt, somewhat short, perhaps a little disillusioned. Um, Through efforts of their leadership, they have, I believe, turned things around. They certainly uh, I don't know what the best way to put this is. Uh, I mean, I suppose if I explain, apparently a number of their scavenger groups managed to narrow down a old warehouse where a lot of cosmetics and bath toiletries, bath bombs and such were stored before the apocalypse happened, and that has boiled down to, I suppose, much better hygiene um, for them, which is obviously a huge difference for the average survivor at the moment. Um, so you don't just have to rely on the fact that they're brightly coloured; they're also the cleanest people on the wasteland at the moment. The magpies also in their um, in their scavenging attempts seems to have managed to get uh, part of the warehouse that was for putting these things together working, which obviously also gives them an opportunity to um, trade these things. So, if you are interested in getting your hands on any of these luxury items, please do let the magpies know. Um, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to trade after they've had their own use. Oh, yes. Where to go next? So, Hospitalers, as was discussed last month, some efforts were made into nanite research, um, which has yielded quite successful results. Whether for the better or for the worse, I'll leave in your hands. It seems that their scientists have managed to program the what we believe used to belong to the magpies, now belonging to the Hospitalers, collection of nanites, bring them up and working in a cloud. I personally saw some efforts later on in the month when they worked together with the Steaders to recover and repair some broken down farm equipment and vehicles in order to assist the Steaders to continue their growth. Where the technician of the Hospitalers managed to control the nanite cloud to convert stone into metal, raw material, which was then used to repair the cars. It took some time, obviously. We don't really have an encyclopedic knowledge of how to put together vehicles, but it seems that we have some form of potential nanite construction capabilities, which could be exceptional, could be terrifying. I suppose continuing speaking of the Hospitalers and the Steaders and also the Vale, uh, efforts to get this rolling school working have very much continued on. It seems that a number of the settlements from around the local area have expressed interest, um, arranging areas for these vehicles to be able to stay inside the settlements. Obviously, Lockland is still no one in, no one out, but they are willing to. They have an airlock system which they use in order to facilitate trade, and they're willing to organise something around that. So, which is good. Obviously, more education for everyone is beneficial to not only us but future generations. Speaking of future generations, we have heard and we've seen the beginning of a construction of a clinic in order to assist with future population efforts. Obviously, where things aren't quite as comfortable as they were 2 years ago, the average health levels aren't quite as exceptional as they were, leading to issues with infertility and early years care. The Nameless have put in some efforts here to ensure that we have those processes available again. I believe the research is ongoing. Obviously, the Nameless don't often talk or are very guarded with what they are willing to share. But potentially going forward, we can look forward to benefiting from improved agriculture from the Greenbelt with perhaps a population boost. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have written on a green piece of paper and wearing yellow sunglasses whilst also staring at a light. So we have... Oh yes, the power station is fully up and running. Speaking of nanites. With the assistance of the Lord Fairfax's regiment, which I mentioned last month, the station is fully operational. The Free Power Initiative, as it's been called, has provided energy for everyone and anyone who needs it, including previous settlements that didn't seem to have much in the way of energy. Now, of course, we've now realised why, first of all, why the energy was failing, and second of all, why previous settlements are now able to access this energy. It seems that the nanite clouds, the very finely dispersed ones that we are not capable of seeing, have been drawing this energy in order to power the larger nanite. I don't want to say community, but the larger nanite culture that perhaps we've been going up against, causing all of these mutations and such, have been drawing from the power station in order to power themselves. But of course, this has led to the brownouts that we previously experienced. Now, whether the power coming back on is beneficial hugely for the long term, it's certainly beneficial for everyone in the long term. Whether our enemies also benefit from it or not, who's to say? Speaking of our enemies and power, it seems that in an effort to deal with some of the what people are now beginning to call river devils, Lord Fairfax's regiment rerouted some industrial power cables from the station to the river in an attempt to engage on, I suppose, large-scale electric warfare isn't quite what was going on there, but they electrocuted the river after warning people from the settlements not to be in it. It certainly had an effect. Excuse me. It certainly had an effect, as I'm sure many of you were made aware of when this happened, where the River Devils were provoked into a quite literal frothing frenzy, striking out from the river and attacking many settlements along the riverbank. It seems that the vast majority of this force was aimed towards where the power cables were placed in order to cause the electrocution. We aren't aware of whether the large creature that we believe spawned the River Devils has been affected, but we do know that the retaliation from the River Devils did cause the defences that Lord Fairfax's regiment had established for the Western Association to be torn asunder and almost completely broken down before the amassed cannon fire and grape shot was able to cause the River Devils to flee back. Obviously, the power cables were damaged in the ensuing chaos, which allowed the River Devils to retreat back to the river. Hopefully, this will lead to see lessened amounts of attacks on riverside settlements, but obviously, again, as always, time will tell. Fertility clinic. Yes, more about Lord Fairfax and nanomachines. Lord Fairfax's regiment have been working with a number of settlements in order to set up gates to allow settlements to test people who may or may not be nano infiltrators. As you may remember, some months ago, we had some issues with individuals acting strangely and mutating wildly when put under extreme amounts of pressure. These gates are designed to stop the flow of travel until they're opened. Obviously, that's the very nature of a gate. But the outposts that are attached to these gates have a few medical personnel who can check for aberrant physical issues, and also what's being effectively known as witch pricking, where blood is attempted to be spilled to see if someone immediately begins to mutate. So please don't be afraid if you see any of these gates, any of these gates. They are for your protection. They're for everyone's protection. And if you're not a nano infiltrator, you have nothing to worry about from them. It doesn't cause any harm. It'll perhaps slow you down by a few minutes per person in your caravan. So it's not all been exceptional news, as I'm sure you're aware. We've had reports of a number of hermits and orphans going missing. Nothing in large-scale amounts, but obviously anyone going missing is a bad sign. It may be that we don't know the extent of how many people are going missing. We certainly don't know why they're going missing. But if you are aware of any individuals in your settlements who may be alone, don't have many friends, live on the outskirts of your settlement or outside your settlement, please be extra vigilant. The last thing we want is for people to be being swept away and mutated against their will, or even in their will. Yes, I think that's everything for this month, aside from obviously smaller scale things that very rarely get mentioned on these announcements. Nope, there we are. No, that's everything. So as always, I shall get back in contact with you in a month or so to let you know how things are going and keep you up to date. As always, stay safe, check your food, check your water, wash your hands, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.